The shadow before the war. The citadel loomed in the twilight, its tall spires cutting jagged shadows across the land. From the balcony of the main tower, Mix gazed at the training grounds below, where warriors of all 5 clans practiced relentlessly. The clang of steel, the hiss of arrows, the roar of shouted commands, it all blended into a symphony of preparation. The test of the 5 dragons had ended, but the echoes of victory were short-lived. A new darkness was stirring. Sophia stepped beside him, her braid glinting in the last rays of sun. "It's too quiet," she murmured. "Too peaceful for what's coming." Mix didn't answer at first, his eyes scanning the horizon. Then he said, "Peace always feels too short when the storm waits at your back." His fingers tightened around the hilt of his sword. Below, King Artheon raised his voice, addressing the clans with a gravity that silenced the courtyard. "Tonight, we sharpen our blades, not for pride, but for survival. Remember the lessons of the dragons. Your courage will be tested again, for shadows move even now in the east." The warriors shouted in response, but the sound didn't carry the usual fervor. Somewhere deep inside, Mix felt the tremor of unease. He turned his gaze eastward. The mountains beyond the kingdom's edge seemed almost darker, heavier, as if the night itself were coiling into a fist. There, when the torches were extinguished, the citadel slept under a fragile blanket of calm. But in the east, the wind carried whispers, faint, sinister, almost melodic in their menace. The Silver Clan's banners fluttered in the wind, their shimmering threads catching the moonlight. Then a strange chill swept the mountains. The silver seemed to darken, turning first gray, then black. One by one, the banners became shadowed, their brilliance devoured by something unseen. Within the Silver Clan's temple, the high priest stirred, his eyes, once a serene silver, now cracked with veins of midnight black. "The seal, it is broken," he whispered, a tremor running through his voice. Outside, the mist rose like a living thing, crawling across the forests and valleys, consuming light, twisting it into darkness. Mix awoke suddenly on the balcony, heart hammering. His crescent mark glowed faintly beneath his armor, pulsing in warning. He could feel it, the Silver Clan's power, once noble and steadfast, now corrupted, turning into something alien and cruel. Sophia's hand found his shoulder. "Mix, look," she said, pointing toward the horizon. There, amidst the trees, a faint black haze rose like smoke, blotting out the stars. It moved with intent, spreading, swallowing the land. He drew a sharp breath. "Not the Silver Clan. Not like this," he muttered. "They've become the Black Clan." The first distant beats of drums echoed through the valleys. Slow, methodical, resonant, a signal of war. From the mountaintops, shadowed figures began to emerge. Their armor glinted black, absorbing rather than reflecting light. And somewhere in the distance, lightning split the sky, illuminating shapes that were unmistakably the fallen warriors of the Silver Clan, now soldiers of darkness, ready to march. Mix turned to Sophia, his jaw tight. "This isn't just a threat. It's the beginning. The Silver Clan we knew is gone. What comes now is war, and it comes for all of us." As the night deepened, the black mist crept ever closer, swallowing forests, streams, and villages in its silent hunger. The wind carried whispers of betrayal and power, promises of ruin. Every creature in the kingdom seemed to sense it, every leaf trembling, every shadow stretching longer, every heartbeat faster. Above it all, the stars blinked once, then vanished behind the oncoming darkness, and as the first whispers of the new Black Clan reached the citadel, Mix gripped his sword tightly. He and Sophia would not stand idly by. The coming battle would decide the fate of not just their kingdom, but of every clan that called it home. The drums grew louder. The horizon glimmered with the first signs of an army. An army that once wore silver. Now it wore black. And in that moment, silence fell over the balcony. A silence heavier than any words, heavier than any armor. The war had begun. The morning sun spilled golden light across the citadel, but the warmth did little to chase away the unease that hung over the kingdom. Mix paced the grand hall, his crescent mark faintly glowing beneath his armor, while Sophia stood quietly near the windows, eyes fixed on the horizon where the dark mist of the Black Clan still lingered. King Artheon's voice rang through the hall. The enemy grows stronger by the day. Their corruption spreads, and even the bravest warriors feel its weight. We cannot face this alone. A ripple of murmurs spread through the gathered lords and commanders. Then, the massive doors of the hall creaked open, and in stepped the leaders of two ancient allies, the elven Queen Lyrithiel and the dwarven King Borin Stoneheart. Queen Lyrithiel's eyes were sharp, her silver hair flowing like moonlight over her emerald armor. "King Artheon, we feared this day would come," she said, her voice calm but laced with urgency. "The Black Clan's rise does not concern only your kingdom. Its shadow reaches into our forests and across our mountains. We cannot ignore it." King Borin's presence was just as imposing. His braided beard and iron crown gleamed, and his broad shoulders carried the weight of generations. "We have seen their corruption creeping into the caves and forges of the dwarves," he said, voice deep and resonant. "The Black Clan will not stop. If they reach the fairy lands, no fortress, no weapon, no strategy will hold them back alone." Mix stepped forward, his tone firm but respectful. "We are grateful for your support, my queen, my king, but their strength, it grows every day. How can we unite without risking our people to their first strike?" Lyrathiel's gaze softened for a moment, then hardened again. "We bring our finest archers, scouts, and magic. The elves can strike from the shadows and cut their numbers before they reach the gates." Orin slammed a gauntleted fist onto the stone floor, the echo shaking the hall. "And the dwarves bring hammers and steel forged in the oldest forges of our mountains. We will stand shoulder to shoulder with your warriors. But know this, if the Black Clan finds weakness, they will exploit it. There can be no hesitation." King Artheon nodded, his fingers drumming on the arm of his throne. "Then it is settled. The elves and dwarves join our forces. Mix, you will lead the coalition's scouts and coordinate the first defenses." Mix bowed slightly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavier than any armor. "I will not fail," he promised. Outside the hall, the wind carried the faint scent of smoke and the lingering shadow of the Black Clan. The banners of silver still fluttered weakly in the breeze, some beginning to show hints of black, as if the corruption were creeping closer with every passing moment. Queen Lyrathiel leaned toward Mix, her voice low. "The Black Clan's magic is unlike anything we have seen. You must be careful. Even the bravest warriors can fall if they are unprepared," Borin added, "and trust must be earned quickly. Our armies will follow your lead, but betrayal or mistakes could cost everything. Mix looked across the room at the gathered allies, his heart pounding. The combined might of fairies, elves, and dwarves was formidable, yet the sense of dread was stronger. He could feel the Black Clan's presence even here, a creeping shadow that whispered of destruction. "Then we prepare," Mix said, lifting his sword so that the morning sun glinted off the blade. "Together we fight. Together we survive. And together we will turn the tide against the darkness that approaches." A hush fell over the hall, broken only by the distant roar of war drums. The elves' banners shimmered faintly in the sunlight, and the dwarves' axes gleamed like promise and defiance. Outside, the kingdom stirred, soldiers, scouts, and civilians alike, all bracing for what would come. Mix took a deep breath, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on him. The alliances had been forged, the strategy discussed, and yet the Black Clan's shadow stretched farther than any of them could see. Above the citadel, a crow circled the sky, its black feathers stark against the morning light. It let out a harsh cry, and in its voice, Mix thought he could hear the first whispers of the coming war. The time for preparation was over. The time for unity had begun. And with the elves and dwarves standing beside him, Mix knew that the battle ahead would test not just their strength, but the courage of every soul in the kingdom.